So welcome back everybody. Recently we installed us our second solar array here on the property. My big shop back here behind us is power hungry. We run a lot of appliances and tools out there, and now it's 100% off grid thanks to this solar array and the one you see behind me. When we originally built the one behind me, I made it modular where it could be broken down and taken away should hurricanes or major storms approach. This one is so large, I decided to do an affordable permanent mount solution, but you just seen recently, I decided I want to start covering this with plywood whenever those storms, hailstorms, hurricanes, or things like that approach the area. We've been hit by a lot of hurricanes, so this is starting to become very common. I need a way to protect these panels, but I want a way that I can quickly protect them, quickly take down the protection, because after the storm is passed, we need to be generating and making this power to help us out with that power situation. We've lost power a lot over the last 1.5 to 2 years due to back-to-back hurricanes, storms, tornado outbreaks, and more. So what you just seen in that video is I built lips up and above the panels right here so we could put plywood on. I put a 2x4 in the middle so we can screw down into it, and another lip up top. So basically we can lay plywood on without it making contact with the panels and damaging those. It just takes way too long to put the panels on and screw them down. So in this episode, we're gonna make a simple metal track down here that bolts in, that's nice and strong, so we can slide our plywood panels in. And I'm going to take a viewer suggestion to actually make a flip-up bar. They talked about like the bars that come down on the roller coaster rides. Well, I think that's a good idea. So since we're going to have slide-in tracks top and bottom, that's still going to allow the plywood to flop in the middle and potentially blow out in a hurricane. So we need some way to secure it in the middle. So some fold-up bar that can stay here 24/7, but actually be able to screw down in. That's the only thing we're going to screw down on this, and we're not going to use many screws at all. This should go in nice, quick, and easy, break down nice and quick, and get us back up running, making that power that we're going to need. So I just picked up a load of steel, so we need to grab some quick measurements right here to go start building our pieces. And in case you're new to all this and haven't seen the build on the channel, this array can also be wired into the house where we have an emergency solar system that we've had to use a lot to keep us powered after all these hurricanes. So I can send this array to the shop where it runs 24/7, or take part of it and send back to the house to run us in that off-grid scenario. So let me show you what I'm working with here. I just picked up some 2.5 inch angle iron, 3/16 wall, very thick. Overkill, but my supplier didn't offer it an 1/8 inch, or I would have went with it. So what I'm doing is 1 inch down from just one edge. I have just drill line as you've seen, and I am making a mark. Another 2 feet, making a mark. Another 2 feet, you get the point, because we're about to drill out holes here for 3/8 lag bolts. So ultimately what I'm trying to do here is this is going to flip up like this. Imagine this is the bottom of what I just showed you out there. It's going to screw into the side. We're going to leave a gap, and underneath this lip right here is where we're going to slide our plywood. So we're getting a really good contact surface over the plywood to keep the edges from lifting. We're going to do this top and bottom. And we're going to use some of this 1.5 inch square tubing right here and build that fold over bar in the middle I was just telling you about. So we've got a tremendous amount of holes to drill. This would be a nightmare to do it with a standard drill. Let me show you what I'm going to use. We'll start drilling some holes, then we'll probably throw this and fast forward because there's so much repeat work here. So I haven't used this drill on camera recently, but I do use it all the time. I just did some work for somebody else who come over and had to drill out some pretty massive holes. So either whenever it comes to drilling out large holes or you're needing to make really quick work, it is hard to not use my mag drill right here. And this is my Evolution mag drill, and it's one of my favorite shop tools by far. It takes aggravating work like that where you've got to drill a bunch of holes and makes it so quick and easy. Drilling 3/8 holes with a hand drill is a bit much. 1 or 2, no problem. When you've got 30 or 40 to drill, whole different ball game. And I do have a shop drill press, but it's still nowhere near as quick as this. And I can't take 10-foot long heavy sections of steel and run through that shop drill press. And the reason it's so fast is because it uses a special annular cutter. I actually don't have the length I need in that other set. So let me go to this set right here. So here's what an annular cutter does. It only removes material on the outside that's very noticeable on your large holes. So you're only cutting to where these teeth are. You don't have to remove all that material in the middle. Like with a twist drill bit, that's why it's so much quicker. You just knock a plug out instead of removing all of that. All right, so we're gonna be using 1.5-inch lag bolts to hold this in. And this is called a mag drill or electromagnetic drill because in the base is a big electromagnet. That's what clamps this to the steel, although I should be using a lot thicker and more material. So you plug it into the wall, turn on that electromagnet. Once you get it centered where you want it, kick it on. Now you can see it's taking the steel with it. We'll put a little drop of some oil right here for cutting, but we're gonna blast through this steel. Even though 3/16 is kind of thick, it's not for this drill. How's that for speed? If I had to do all these holes with a standard drill, oh, it would take forever. That right there is 5 times as fast as a twist drill, maybe 10 times as fast, and I wasn't even pushing it. All right, let's see if we can get this on here by myself and then I'll explain what the heck we got going on. Okay, let me show you what I got going on here. You can see I got my first rail on, and we're just gonna keep repeating this process. So I've left a pretty large gap underneath. What I did is I used one of these 1x4s, which is a 3/4 inch wide board, to stick underneath here as I bolted this down. That acts as my spacer and gives me some wiggle room because we're gonna be putting 1/2-inch plywood in here. So I wanted a 1/4 inch gap to allow for some flex, some expansion and contraction, and my board to slide in there just fine. You can see what I've done is lag bolted every 2 feet. Oh, I gotta tighten that one up. With some 3/8 lags. Now, that's plenty strong to hold back because there's really not gonna be lift on the plywood that's on here. Once we sink it all down, and lightly screwed across the middle and anchor it down with a bar. We just don't want to flex or any air getting up underneath the plywood with that little gap, potentially bowing it and pulling it out. It's just not gonna happen. Now the reason I left such a large gap, even though I'm only going with 1/2-inch plywood, look at this piece right here. It's not uncommon for plywood to bow, warp, and that's just gonna make it even more difficult to slide in. It does flex, but let's see if this piece slides in okay. So imagine we've got a whole sheet of plywood, you know that it'll be coming in like this, sliding across, but it'll be 4 foot long like this. As you can see, even with this piece having a pretty significant bow, it fits in there just fine. Now that whole sheet of plywood can't lift up out the bottom. You can see how much of a lip. I mean, we're covering over 2 inches of the plywood, which is really good coverage. It can't bow in the middle because we're gonna attach it, so there's no way this end can pop out. Kelley the Wasp. Oh boy, I about got tore up. One tried to sting me, but it couldn't get it in me. He was bouncing off of me though. That's the bad thing about wood like this. Wasp build nest up everywhere. And apparently there's one all the way up underneath there. I gotta figure out how to spray. There they go, flying around. Well, I gotta let them calm down. Go get some spray and take care of this situation. All right, so our top and bottom rails are in. Again, you can see this nice big groove. We'll cut our plywood to size here in a minute so we can slide it in underneath and all the way down. Now we've got a little bit of a problem. These timber screws, 8-inch long timber screws that I have going in the middle here holding this board in, well, they are all up in the way. So I'm gonna need to pull these out, drill a 1/2-inch hole, you know, about this deep, and then countersink these back in. So when I'm sliding my plywood all the way down, it's not catching the screws, being aggravating. All right, so we have to have a single bar to clamp down the middle of our panels that we're gonna put in our plywood so they don't bow and go flying out in the wind. It's gotta be 33 foot long. You can't order steel that long. Plus I like to haul it in the truck so it's already cut in half when I pick it up. So we've got to weld a few sections together. This is gonna get interesting because we have to make a really long bar. By the way, nobody ever fessed up to it. I bought a set of these fold-out sawhorses a while back, rant and raved over them, told y'all how much I loved them, and one of y'all sent me another set and never fessed up to it, never told me who it was. It was just a gift that showed up in the mail. Thank y'all so much, because look, there's times that I really have to use 4 sets of sawhorses. When we start building the new house, 1 set's gonna live over there, 1 set's gonna stay here. And y'all, it's burning up hot, so you're gonna hear the fan in the background. So pretty much I'm just gonna weld 3 sections of pipe together to get that 33 feet that I need, and we'll make our clamp bar. labeled up really good so they can always go back in the same spot, because some of them have lag bolt holes in it like you just seen. And I want to be able to put them in nice, quick, and easy, and I'll make sure I stack them up correctly. And yes, that was nerve-wracking putting lag bolts in, knowing there's solar panels right behind that plywood, but I triple checked. All right, we are nice and complete. Let's take a look at everything. We got our top heavy-duty track here with plenty of coverage over the plywood so it can't flop and come out. Same thing on the bottom. And then we have got our roller coaster bar, as we'll call it, flip up and down center lock. And as you've seen, because even though it's steel, it can be a bit flimsy. So I put a couple of really long lag bolts in right here. I'm probably gonna go get even longer ones just so this could never lift. All right, y'all, I just added this up. I'm about to show you how it works, but here's the kicker. I was originally putting this down with 115 screws. I just did the calculation. Wow. Plus no lip to hold the plywood, so I had to hold it, and it was quite time consuming. Not something you want to be dealing with when you're stressed out because there's a hurricane coming, or after the hurricane, you don't have no power and you need this back going. So we just went from 115 screws and a long time to put this together to 2 bolts. Just 2 that I showed you right here for extra peace of mind. And if I wanted to, I don't even have to have the bolts. I could just put a lock in the bottom, lock in the top, and have a bar that you slide in there that holds this, but 2 bolts is perfectly fine with me. Okay, well, y'all have done seen how quick and easy the panels slide in. So whenever it comes, say the hurricane just passed, comes time to take this down, it's literally this easy. Then just go to one end or the other and kind of lift out. You see how flimsy that bar is in the middle, so those lag bolts are absolutely needed. And then just lay this thing down. Now I can slide my panels out. It sure doesn't get much easier than that. All right, here is a quick look of how the bar looks whenever there's no panels on. So it folds back flat against this 2x4 support. And as you can see, I went ahead and put 2 lag bolts back in. That way I never lose them. And then this is ready to sit here until it needs to be used. So I finish this up, I'm just gonna put some caps on this end so this doesn't fill up with water and rust out, and get a little bit more of a professional look. I also got to thinking I might drill a hole down here, so when this is clamped down on the boards, I could put another lag bolt in here, really holding this down, since I don't really want to add no more lag bolts up there. All right, let's pop these caps in, wrap this video up. So in just a few minutes, we can have this thing up and running, making the power that we need, or protected from the storm and the elements. Now, a lot of people ask me why I didn't use the clear storm shutters that they sell for homes down south. You can put over your windows, still see through them. People are like, hey, you can still generate power that way. They were nowhere near the size that I needed here, and unbelievably expensive. It would have been multiple times the cost of what I have in this. Literally almost the cost of what my panel system runs, just for protection. No thank you. All right, y'all, hopefully you enjoy this. This was a fun build, something much needed, a relatively simple design. Thanks for suggesting the roller coaster bar. Nice, quick, and easy. Catch y'all on the next one.